They tried to silence him. They erased his name. But he rebuilt from nothing. He fought every algorithm. They tried again and failed. Now he's back, stronger. From blackout to spotlight, he's at the White House, at the top of his game. Franchi lives.
You are about to enter another dimension, the dimension of truth, unfiltered and uncensored. Welcome to the Raw Feed with Gary Franchi.
Welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, coming to you live from the heart of America. Unfiltered truth to millions on YouTube. Hit those donation links below. Every contribution powers our gear. Every contribution keeps the party going. Help me help you. Hit those donation links. YouTube channel memberships. Special acknowledgement in the fellowship. Your super chats keep me standing. Your Rumble rants fuel every round.
Say hello to super chats.
Spread the intel. Every repost extends our reach.
Super chats fuel this spectacle. Your Rumble rants give me strength.
24/7 members-only community, behind-the-scenes discussions.
Connect with fellow patriots.
My mama always said, life is like sharing the truth. Text this stream to your friends. What if I told you the app is real? Download the Next News Network app. Android users, take the Google Play path. iPhone users, App Store awaits.
What's up, everybody? It's Friday night at the Next News Network. And on January 16th, 1883, President Chester Arthur signed the Pendleton Civil Service Act into law, ending decades of corrupt political patronage that allowed the well-connected to loot the federal government while ordinary Americans played by the rules. It took the assassination of a president to finally force Washington to act. 143 years later, we find ourselves asking the same question our ancestors asked back then. When will corruption end? Good evening, America. Welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, and tonight the situation in Minneapolis continues to escalate. Rioters are now attempting to tear down fences outside ICE facilities. They're openly coordinating, waiting for numbers before they strike. Anti-ICE protesters stormed the Minnesota state capitol, and while federal agents remain under siege, 24 Democrat lawmakers are flying into the state to rally against ICE. And the organizer, Ilhan Omar. Tom Homan just confirmed what comes next, and it involves a meeting with President Trump that could change everything. Then we turn north, where something just happened that should alarm every American who's paying attention. Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, stood in Beijing and said the quiet part out loud. He declared that Canada's new partnership with China positions them well for the New World Order. Those are his words, New World Order. He slashed tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and opened the door for nearly 50,000 of them to flood into North America. Our neighbor just picked a side, and it's not ours. Back in Minnesota, the fraud scandal grows darker by the hour. Federal investigators are zeroing in on billions stolen through fake daycare companies, SNAP fraud schemes, and NGO money laundering operations. $136 million tracked from Ohio, merged with stolen Minnesota funds, loaded onto planes, and shipped overseas. The IRS is now auditing the banks that moved the money. Whistleblowers say Governor Walz knew about this for years. So why are the streets burning right now? Because the closer investigators get to the truth, the more chaos they need to cover it up. Speaking of things that they do not want you to see, the corporate media is melting down tonight. President Trump's affordability agenda is delivering results so undeniable that even hostile networks are forced to report them. Car prices are dropping. Manufacturing wages are up over $1,300. Mortgage rates have fallen more than a full percentage point. Home sales just hit a 3-year high. And what does a reporter ask at the Ford plant? How does making vehicles more affordable help auto workers? That question tells you everything about how disconnected these people are from the Americans that they claim to cover. And finally, Congress is scrambling as the Stop Insider Trading Act advances and more scandals explode into public view. 3 Democrats on spending committees just got exposed, raking in gains up to 250% on stocks that they directly control through legislation. When confronted, one Republican representative joked that if it was insider trading, they would have bought more. Funny to them, but it's not funny to you. The same Congress that writes the rules exempts itself from following them. So in 1883, it took a president's assassination to end the spoils system. Tonight, Americans are asking what it will take to end the insider trading, the billion-dollar fraud pipelines, and the organized looting of our national treasury. The answer starts with you showing up. It starts with truth tellers refusing to be silenced, and it starts here. It starts right now. Cities are on fire. A new world order has been declared. Billions stolen. Media exposed. Congress caught red-handed. Buckle up, America. This is the Raw Feed, and we are only just getting started. Let's welcome you to the program. Mrs. Pothead Kenny is here. Everyone's filing in. Sorry about the false start, but we are here now, and we're about to get this show underway. And we have a couple super chats to acknowledge before we begin. Craig, Nebraska, reporting for duty. Hello, and God bless all patriots here. Thank you for all you do. Gary, thank you, Craig, for your $10. And Chris Orr, $15, Texas, reporting for duty. Right on. Great to see everybody in. Hopefully we can hit that goal tonight and have a great show. Regardless, we have news to cover. The situation in Minneapolis just escalated again. Rioters are attempting to tear down fences outside ICE facilities, openly coordinating, waiting for the numbers before they strike. Anti-ICE protesters stormed the Minnesota Capitol, and while federal agents remain under siege, 24 Democrat lawmakers are flying in to rally against ICE, and the organizers, Ilhan Omar and Tom Homan, just met with President Trump, and what happens next could actually change everything. Now, what is at risk here is nothing less than federal authority in the United States. When rioters can storm a Capitol building, mob federal facilities, and coordinate attacks on law enforcement, while elected officials travel in to support them, you're watching the collapse of the rule of law in real time. What we already know is that these mobs are capable of a known gang member with a violent rap sheet smashed open a weapons locker inside an FBI vehicle and stole a rifle and ammunition. He's since been arrested, but the image is seared into the national memory. Governor Walz was warned repeatedly to restore order, and he refused. The journalists on the ground confirmed state leadership ignored every request. If Minnesota will not protect federal officers, the federal government has only one card left to play, and President Trump has made clear he is ready to play it. And if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Many investors discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means that their savings are tied to markets, policies, and paper assets with very little protection. If conditions change, that is where Noble Gold Investments comes in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. No pressure, no sales gimmicks, just clear answers and a strategy built around your goals. Visit nextnewsgold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. The link is in the description. Now, Tom Homan met with President Trump about invoking the Insurrection Act. He called it a viable option and warned that there will be more bloodshed if something is not done. Elon Musk told his 232 million followers that it's time to invoke the Insurrection Act immediately. James Woods called the violence a funded insurrection. Laura Ingraham said the idea that this is some organic uprising is ludicrous. And Homan dropped this. They know who's funding these organized groups, and justice is coming their way very, very soon. Border Hawk posting this. Thank you, Nick Sortor. You are a great patriot who deserves a Pulitzer Prize for your fearless, honorable reporting. The Border Hawk team is proud to stand with you. Nick Sortor doing absolutely amazing work on the ground there. This praise for him sets up his credibility before we dive into the explosive reporting on the Insurrection Act. Here is the president.
What's the trigger for the Insurrection Act in Minnesota? What are you waiting for?
Well, the Insurrection Act, which has been used by 48% of the presidents as of this moment, the Insurrection Act also, if you look at it, I believe it was Bush, the elder Bush, he used it, I think, 28 times. It's been used a lot. And if I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it. But if I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
Well, I think you need to use it, buddy. It's long overdue, and his direct threat actually escalates quickly when we see the organized groups who are behind the chaos Chicago One Ray. Consequences, Laura Ingraham, the idea that some organic uprising is ludicrous. Tom Homan, we know there's organized groups. We know who's funding. Justice is coming their way. We are all over this. Here he is talking to Laura Ingraham.
But the idea that this is some organic uprising is ludicrous. I was there. It was obvious. It was not organic.
Well, you're exactly right. And there's deep dive right now between HSI, IRS, and FBI. We know there's organized groups. We know there's funding. And we're doing a deep dive right now to identify them, follow the money, and find out who's organizing this, who's inciting the violence. And justice is coming their way. So we're all over this. We just had increased the number of attorneys to Minnesota, number of agents. But there's a separate part of that. We're looking at the financials. We're looking at who's funding this, who's antagonizing this, and they'll be held accountable, Laura. We're all over it. You should hear something real soon.
Well, we're waiting. We're waiting. Laura Ingraham and Tom Homan's intel about organized funding leads us straight to the Capitol storming. Anti-ICE protesters storming the Minnesota State Capitol. Clearly insurrection, right? Yeah, that's the insurrection there, real time. But there is even more. The Capitol breach gives context for why lawmakers are now rushing to Minnesota. Take a look at this. 24 Democrat lawmakers traveling to Minnesota to rally against ICE. They called it Kidnapped and Disappeared, Trump's deadly assault on Minnesota. And guess who's organizing it? Ilhan Omar.
Well, now more than 24 congressmen and women are traveling to Minnesota. They're having this field hearing on what they're calling, quote, Trump's lawless assaults on communities. They're calling it Kidnapped and Disappeared, Trump's deadly assault on Minnesota. They're featuring people who will speak to personal trauma and constitutional violations. Right. Guess who's organizing this? Representative Jayapal and Ilhan Omar. Right. Then there's going to be a presser to follow, and then they're going to tour an ICE facility. They're going to Baltimore to do that, and they're calling for the impeachment of Kristi Noem.
Right, exactly. And these congressmen are all Democrats.
Of course they are, because they are just trying to create more problems. Ilhan Omar organizing Democrat resistance creates the perfect storm that even Fox News is covering it. Greg Gutfeld eviscerating Jessica Tarlaw for attacking agents. How naive of you. Watch this.
Create the environment, and then you complain about the consequences. When you kick over a beehive, don't complain when the bees come after you.
Every single one of those
poke a bear, don't say, I can't believe the bear's chasing me.
You have a right to stand there and yell at
That's not what we were talking about. We're talking about you guys deliberately creating an environment so that there is chaos. And when there is chaos, you go, oh my God, someone gets hurt. What do you expect in chaos?
You don't think that they're trying to create chaos?
Yes.
What they're the ICE officers.
These organizations desire chaos.
Going in and
how naive are you?
And it wouldn't be you wouldn't have this chaos.
She's like, what, you think these ICE guys going in there and taking kids? They're taking kids. Are you serious? Yeah, no. And Gutfeld's 100%. 100% right. You know why? Because those ICE agents are not going in there to create chaos. They're going in there under the rule of law to execute the law. And the chaos is instigated on the other side because they are trying to evade or distract. Gutfeld's rant builds up to Tom Homan's bombshell meeting announcement. Says he's meeting with President Trump about potentially invoking the Insurrection Act in Minnesota. It is time.
Is it time for the Insurrection Act, or would that just add gasoline to the fire?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of the president on that, but it's certainly an option, a viable option. So actually, I'll be meeting with the president tomorrow. So, I think it's something that needs to be on the table because this cannot continue. There is going to be more bloodshed. I'm telling you. I hope I'm wrong, but I haven't been yet. There's going to be more bloodshed if something hasn't done.
It's going to spread, and most Minnesotans, by the way, and I want to say this tonight because folks have reached out to me, support ICE. It's this radical group of anarchists, and when you see them close up, you really get a sense of who they are. It's this crowd, a lot of them paid, a lot of them working, double shifts of protest against the rest of the state, which are reasonable, common sense, peaceful people of all backgrounds, including immigrant backgrounds. They don't like what's happened in the Twin Cities, and we're going to expose more about Jacob Frey in a moment. But Tom, I think most people are good people. They want the bad people out, and they want some peace in their neighborhoods.
And we're going to get the bad people out. And as far as the organization, everybody that's planning these protests, giving these people weapons and funding this, again, justice is coming because we're deep diving that whole thing.
Deep diving the whole thing. They're going deep to find out where the money is flowing. His warning about the bloodshed sets up the official White House response. Would you support President Trump invoking the Insurrection Act to save Minneapolis? Bridging us to the actual threat in President Trump's own words, posting this to Truth Social. If the corrupt politicians in Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, we're only trying to do their job. I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Trump's official ultimatum, triggering immediate support from his biggest allies, MAGA Voice. At 12:56 a.m., Elon Musk announced to his 232 million followers, it is time to invoke the Insurrection Act immediately. Time to protect our cities. Elon's platform is amplifying the call. Shows that there's real-time escalation at the riot site. Rioters attempting to break down the fence outside the Minneapolis ICE facility. But another rioter jumped in and said, we don't have the numbers yet. This is why the Insurrection Act must be invoked now before it's too late. Cam Higbee capturing this.
Somebody's telling us stuff.
Oh shit, they're coming deep. Oh fuck. They destroyed lives, dude. It comes really easily from a white dude to say to keep the peace.
We don't have the numbers yet. The rioters planning their next move proves why congressional calls are intensifying. Yet another violent night of riots in the streets of Minneapolis. Elon Musk, several members of Congress are calling for Trump to immediately invoke the Insurrection Act. That is what Musk posted. Here's some more footage.
Back up! Coward! You're all cowards! You're all cowards! Fucking cowards!
It just keeps getting crazier. Multiple voices demanding action culminates in James Wood's blunt assessment. Just do it because the anarchy and violence in Minnesota is nothing short of a funded insurrection, quote tweeting President Trump. And he's calling it a funded insurrection leads to the proof of the consequences for the rioters. Doc Washburn repos. We caught one of the individuals that was part of destroying the FBI vehicles. He will now be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. His life has been changed forever due to his foolishness. Don't be like him. And of course, he has a face tattoo. The arrest news transitions perfectly to Democrats fighting back against the crackdown. Resist the mainstream. Representative Dan Goldman claims that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is not only inept and incompetent, she's incredibly dangerous.
Are you going to sign on to the bill to impeach Kristi Noem that was introduced?
Yes.
A number of your colleagues signed on to it today?
Yes. Kristi Noem, to me, it is more just another way of sending a message that Kristi Noem is not only inept and incompetent, she's incredibly dangerous. We cannot wait for an impeachment to play out. She should be fired today. And next week, when we deal with the appropriations, we need to deal directly with Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security, which is just completely out of control and has turned into essentially a militia that is terrorizing cities, democratic cities all around the country.
Yeah, those are fighting words right there. Those are words of an insurrectionist. And that is exactly why the Insurrection Act is about to be triggered. He's calling the individuals who are enforcing the law militia, thugs, Nazis. See, President Trump's drawn the line. If the corrupt politicians in Minnesota do not obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking ICE, he will institute the Insurrection Act. Many presidents have done it before. The question is no longer whether it's justified. The question is how much more damage will be allowed before it happens. Minneapolis is the warning shot, and the clock is ticking. So this is not a protest movement that got out of hand. This is a coordinated assault on federal authority, funded and organized while Democrat politicians provide cover. Mob storm state capitals. Fences are torn down outside ICE facilities. Instead of calling for order, elected officials fly in to rally against the agents under attack. Governor Walz ignored every warning. State leadership let this fester for years, and now the president stands ready to trigger the Insurrection Act, a tool used by presidents throughout American history when states refuse to uphold the law. Tom Homan says they know who is funding this and justice is coming. The real question is simple. Whose side are these politicians on? My question for you, should President Trump invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota, yes or no? Answer in the comments, and if you want to stand with us, check out the Next News merch shop, linked in the description. All right. Okay, let's see. All right, we got a salty nationalist here. Can't stay, just stopping by to drop this off. Night G, stay frosty. Thank you, salty nationalist. Sincerely appreciate that. And we're just checking a couple other things right now as we continue to monitor our system in action. Just want to, let's see here if I can just open up. Let's see here. One moment. Let's see here. So you guys, what do you guys got planned this weekend? Anything fun? Anything I should know about or not know about? I'd like to know. Drop a comment, drop a chat. I'm just going to go ahead and post something here. I need to make sure I am getting all these pieces of information together. Okay, there we go. Just hit this here. Well, that's weird. Okay. Just a second before we, let's see here. Okay. I need to adjust something, guys. Bear with me as I continue to monitor our system in real time. This computer is so slow. Okay. Give me 1 second here.
Are you going to sign on to the bill to impeach Kristi Noem that was introduced?
Yes.
A number of your colleagues signed on to it today?
Yes. Kristi Noem, to me, it is more just another way of sending a message that Kristi Noem is not only inept and incompetent, she's incredibly dangerous. We cannot wait for an impeachment to play out. She should be fired today. And next week, when we deal with the appropriations, we need to deal directly with Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security, which is just completely out of control and has turned into essentially a militia that is terrorizing cities, democratic cities all around the country.
I want to get that remark from President Trump again because it's important.
What's the trigger for the Insurrection Act in Minnesota? What are you waiting for?
Well, the Insurrection Act, which has been used by 48% of the presidents as of this moment, the Insurrection Act also, if you look at it, I believe it was Bush, the elder Bush, he used it, I think, 28 times. It's been used a lot. And if I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it. But if I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
What's the trigger for the Insurrection Act in Minnesota? What are you waiting for?
Well, the Insurrection Act, which has been used by 48% of the presidents as of this moment, the Insurrection Act also, if you look at it, I believe it was Bush, the elder Bush, he used it, I think, 28 times. It's been used a lot. And if I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it. But if I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
And I want to get this remark again here.
But the idea that this is some organic uprising is ludicrous. I was there. It was obvious. It was not organic.
Well, you're exactly right. And there's deep dive right now between HSI, IRS, and FBI. We know there's organized groups. We know there's funding. And we're doing a deep dive right now to identify them, follow the money, and find out who's organizing this, who's inciting the violence. And justice is coming their way. So we're all over this. We just had increased number of attorneys to Minnesota, number of agents. But there's a separate part of that. We're looking at the financials. We're looking at who's funding this, who's antagonizing this, and they'll be held accountable, Laura. We're all over it. You should hear something real soon.
And where was the other video? Let's see this one. I want to get to that again. This one.
Back up! Back up! Coward! You're a coward! You're a coward! Fucking coward! I'm not going to tell you again. Back up! Back up! Coward! You're a coward! You're a coward! Fucking coward! Loser!
All right, we are moving right along now. Sorry for the delay. We're going to be talking in our next segment here. Some interesting video that was sent to me from Tom McCullough, our White House correspondent. And, okay. All right, let's go into the next story here. We got Tony Houston dropping $5. Thank you. And what is waiting for? We want the collective orgs behind this is why. I get it, man. Okay, Brian, I'm ready. Canada turns east as Carney invoking the New World Order. That's right. That's what's happening. And we're going to get into this. Brian, let me just... For years, they called it a conspiracy theory. They mocked anyone who warned about the New World Order. Well, the Prime Minister of Canada just stood in Beijing and said those exact words out loud. He wasn't joking. He was not taken out of context. He declared that Canada's new relationship with China sets them up well for the New World Order. And he backed it up with an action that should terrify every American who's watching right now. No, what just happened is not routine diplomacy. Mark Carney splashed Canada's tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, slashed it from 100% down to just 6%. That opens the door for 49,000 Chinese EVs to flood into Canada. In exchange, China agreed to cut tariffs on Canadian canola. That is not a fair trade. That is submission. So this matters to you because Canada shares the longest undefended border in the world with the United States. And if Chinese EVs pour into Canada, they are one step away from our markets. And if Canada aligns economically with Beijing, our northern flank becomes a strategic liability. Provincial leaders visibly reacted when Carney said those words. Even allies seem stunned. It's not about cars. This is about who controls North America's economic future. And breaking right now in the critical mineral space as nations battle for resource independence, one metal is surging to the top of defense priorities. I'm talking about titanium. It's lightweight, incredibly strong, and corrosion resistance. An F-35 fighter jet is up to 40% titanium by weight. Now, these jets are actively deployed near Venezuelan airspace right now. North America's titanium supply is becoming critical, and Saga Metals is drilling with intent at early-stage valuations, now trading as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada. This company is positioned at the center of the Western push for secure supply chains. This is developing fast, so visit the briefing in the link below for the latest information. Now, when reporters pressed Carney on what he meant by a New World Order, he doubled down. He said that multilateral architecture is being eroded, and the question is what gets built in its place. Think about that. He's admitting the old system is collapsing and positioning Canada to be part of whatever Beijing is building next. Conservative voices in Canada fired back immediately. Canada first is what they fight for. Critics warn that cozying up to an adversarial regime while distancing from the United States is not diversification, it's provocation. And some are now asking the unthinkable, is Canada positioning itself as an economic counterweight to America? Here he is, saying those words.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the New World Order.
Man, he delivered that with some drama, didn't he? You know, I mean, I don't know how these leaders can sit around and say those words and not know exactly like what it's going to happen. Did he say it because he knew everyone was going to pick up on it? That it's, you know, one of the, you know, catchphrases or buzzwords that we always listen for when we're talking about globalization? Huh?
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the New World Order.
Yeah, pretty dramatic there. This bombshell quote is spreading like wildfire on social media, with users posting video evidence of Carney's exact words. Watch the face of Scott Moe when Canadian Prime Minister Carney says they're entering a new world order. They don't even hide it anymore, right in everyone's faces. Look at his face. You can see him. He's like, uh-oh, really? Is that where we're going? So the video shows other officials' shock reaction, proving this wasn't just a diplomatic slip-up, but a deliberate policy statement. New World Order, Canada first is what we fight for on the conservative side. But conservative politicians are firing back, framing this as a betrayal of Canadian sovereignty. Remember a few years ago when tinfoil hat-wearing people told you that there was a plan for a New World Order? Well, since Mark Carney, Mr. Negotiator, can strike a deal with the U.S., he's out in China making deals with the devil, our enemy. We told you that this was their plan. Now, let me see if I can find some of those clips that didn't load correctly. Let me see if I can find them real quick here for you. And where are we at here? We're in the New World Order folder. Here, check this guy out.
So what does Prime Minister Carney mean when he says this?
And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
What does it mean when he says new world order? I want to know, and I think a lot of Canadians want to know. One thing I do know is Conservatives campaigned on Canada first and everything about Canada. But I wonder if all the people who voted for Prime Minister Mark Carney were voting for a so-called new world order. If you're genuinely want to know, like I do, I suggest you email your Liberal MP or your closest MP and ask them. I know when I'll go back to Parliament, I will be asking what is and why are we talking about a new world order?
Yeah, why are we talking about the new world order? It's because it's always been in play.
During the election when you guys remember during the election when Mark Carney said that China was our biggest threat to national security? And just the other day, since he cannot strike a deal with Donald Trump in the United States, he has to go and make a deal with the devil. He has to go and make a deal with our enemies. Take a look at this video where he literally says to the whole entire country that China's the biggest threat to our security, our national security. And then he goes on and says this in China just the other day. Take a look, guys. Once again, we were right. You should start listening to us. Listen to this.
We didn't have a chance to talk about anything internationally. I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
China, you say?
Yeah.
And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
You guys remember during the election when Mark Carney said that China was our biggest threat?
Yeah. So people are talking about it everywhere. And the critics, of course, who predicted this exact scenario are claiming vindication, saying the globalist agenda is now out in the open. It's Trump that is creating the New World Order. Carney's just calling it like it is and responding by making us less dependent on one great power who's currently in a trade war to destroy our country. That's what this guy has to say. Actually, it's the MAGA World Order is what I like to call it. Carney's defenders are spinning this as a necessary response to Trump's trade policies. And here's another reporter asking him, what did he mean?
Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg News. Yesterday when you met with Premier Lee, one of the things you said in the public remarks was this partnership with Canada and China, this new partnership, sets us up well for the new world order. What did you mean by that? What is the new world order?
Well, it's a great question, Brian, because I think the world is still determining what that order is going to be. And let's be clear what we're talking about first and foremost, which is what are the trading, what is going to govern global trade? What is the role of the WTO going to be? How important are bilateral deals such as the one we're developing, plurilateral deals, if I can use that term, Trans-Pacific Partnership, potential linkages between Trans-Pacific Partnership and the EU? Where is financial regulation, payment system regulation going to fit into that? All of these aspects, I mean, use fancy word, like the architecture, the multilateral system that has been developing these is being eroded, to use a polite term, undercut, use another term. So the question is, what gets built in that place? How much of a patchwork is it? How much is it just on a bilateral basis? Or where do like-minded countries in certain areas? So like-minded countries, just to be clear, doesn't mean you agree on everything. Aspects, for example, on digital trade or agricultural trade. Climate finance is another area.
Climate finance.
to move into areas of geostrategy, geosecurity, you will have different coalitions that are formed. So what this partnership does is in areas, for example, of clean energy, conventional energy, agriculture, as we were just talking about, and financial services, which we've talked less about, but the evolution of the global financial system, the role of the renminbi over time, the evolution of cross-border payments. I know it all sounds very dry, except for your organization, which I think takes an interest in it. These are important elements of how the system is going to work. And look, the expectation is that rather than these being developed necessarily...
Okay, yeah, I get it, man. Just a bunch of globalists speak there. Read between the lines. When pressed by reporters, he doubled down, revealing the deeper strategy behind the controversial words. Is Canada preparing to be an enemy of the USA? Seems rather ill-advised. Carney praises Xi's leadership, references the New World Order, and Beijing remarks the implications are becoming clear. It's not just about trade policy. It's a potential geopolitical alignment that could put Canada at odds with its closest U.S. ally. Jennifer Harper, Canadian PM, declares New World Order in chummy partnership talk with Beijing. Headlines screaming about Canada's pivot towards Beijing, but the real bombshell's the concrete trade deal that just dropped. Carney slashing Canada's 100% tariff on Chinese EVs and announces that up to 49,000 Chinese electric cars will be imported into Canada with only a 6.1% tariff. In return, China has agreed to slash tariffs on canola imports from 84% to 15% by March 4th.
China's strengths, for example, in electric vehicles are formidable. They're undeniable. These are the most affordable and energy efficient and innovative vehicles in the world. And for Canada to build our own competitive EV sector, we need to learn from, partner with, and access and build supply chains with China. To help deliver on the full potential of these partnerships and to bring down costs for Canadians, we're going to start by allowing up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into the Canadian market at the most favored nation tariff rate, which is 6.1%.
Yeah. So that's 49,000 electric vehicles in exchange for some canola oil. You see, this was not a slip of the tongue. Mark Carney chose those words deliberately. He said New World Order in Beijing while cutting deals that undercut American manufacturing and open North America to Chinese industrial dominance. The timing is not accidental as global unrest accelerates and borders fracture. The economic chessboard is being reset. Canada just made its move, and Washington would be insane not to notice. Now, for decades, Americans were told the New World Order was a fantasy cooked up by conspiracy theorists, and now the Prime Minister of Canada says it out loud while shaking hands with Chinese officials. He slashed tariffs to let Chinese EVs flood into his country. He praised the partnership. He admitted the old systems being replaced and signaled Canada wants a seat at Beijing's table. It's not about trade. This is about allegiance. Our closest ally and largest trading partner just pivoted towards a regime that steals our technology, manipulates global markets, and threatens our allies in the Pacific. If Canada becomes a backdoor for Chinese economic dominance, every American worker and every American industry pays the price. So here's my question for you. Should the U.S. impose tariffs on Canada if they continue aligning with China? Yes or no? Answer in the comments. And visit the Next News merch shop, linked in the description, and gear up. All right. Okay. All right, moving right along here. Going into our third topic of the evening. It's Friday night. I hope you guys have a lot of fun stuff planned. What are you guys saying in the chat room? Carney's an idiot. EVs don't work on the frozen tundra. I did see some crazy videos of there was this Chinese EV like SUV, and it looks insane. I mean, it puts a lot of our automakers to shame, the technology I've seen. Look them up. They're actually pretty cool. And you can't get them in North America, but now apparently you will be able to. While the streets of Minneapolis burn, something else is happening that they don't want you to see. Federal investigators are on the ground right now, pushing through the chaos, zeroing in on the fraud operation so massive it will make your head spin. We're talking billions of dollars stolen through fake companies, shipped overseas on planes, and protected by politicians who were warned for years and did nothing. The riots are not the story. The riots are the cover. And what's at stake is your money. American tax dollars stolen on an industrial scale, snap fraud with hundreds of thousands of fake recipients, pulling double and triple benefits, 200,000 dead people still on the rolls, fake daycare companies set up to loot federal programs, $136 million tracked from Ohio into Minnesota, combined with more stolen funds loaded onto planes and then shipped overseas. The TSA watched suitcases of cash move through airports, NGOs receiving tens of millions for clean water projects in Kenya, traced back to empty offices in D.C. with a single desk and nobody home. This is organized financial crime protected by the chaos in the streets. And whistleblowers say Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison were warned about this for years. Now, breaking in the critical minerals market as America fights to secure its supply chains, one metal is emerging as essential: titanium. It's the backbone of defense manufacturing. An F-35 fighter jet is up to 40% titanium by weight. And these jets are deployed right near Venezuelan airspace, and Saga Metal is drilling at early stage valuation in strategic locations, including Greenland, positioning for the Western push to control critical resources trading as CAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada. This is a developing story as investors need to watch. So get the latest of their financial briefing at the link in the description. So yes, like I said, millions for clean water projects in Kenya traced back to empty offices in D.C. Nobody home, though. It's like the mafia, but on an industrial scale. The top leaders all know they're all in on it, and it's absolutely insane. But the investigators are closing in, and that's the good news. Justice moves slowly, but justice is coming, and they know this. And that's, of course, why the rioting is happening in the streets right now. It is the distraction. People get shot or killed or whatever happens, and then the politicians get to go on to their soapboxes and point fingers at ICE and point fingers at Trump. You see how it works? You're not stupid. The IRS also launching audits of the financial institutions that facilitated the laundering of the Minnesota taxpayer funds. Okay, it's not a routine enforcement. That's panic. Senator John Kennedy's bill to stop sending checks to dead people actually passed Congress and heading to President Trump's desk. Elon Musk publicly accused Ilhan Omar of fraud. Reports show her husband went from $51,000 in assets in 2023 to over $30 million today. She claims she's not a millionaire. Glenn Beck said it plainly: Minnesota's Democrat leaders are backed into a corner with all the fraud evidence, so they need to set the streets on fire. Lisa Marie Post, listening to this last night made me so sick. For years, carry-on suitcases of millions of dollars were sent out of the airport, all without questions. The corruption in the state was so well organized.
We're so grateful for the partnership of Secretary Bessent and the Trump administration. So he started a new program where they're going to limit cash out.
Oops, sorry.
We're so grateful for the partnership of Secretary Bessent and the Trump administration. So he started a new program where they're going to limit cash out to $2,000 a person, which is going to be a dramatic change for a lot of people. And they're also going to be geo-tracking all the cash that's leaving the Hennepin County or Ramsey County, which is where, a lot of this population lives. And so that will really help, because before they hadn't been tracking where the money went. And once it got to Dubai, they assumed, it was hard to track because it was going through the Hawala network.
Do you think Walz knew, or is he just an idiot?
It's been so widely reported, there's no way he couldn't have known. It's been known since his first year in 2019. There was an OLA report at that time that thought there would maybe be $100 million in childcare fraud and talked about the ties to terrorism, and that whistleblower was ignored and hounded, actually retaliated against. So everyone's been willfully turning a blind eye in the Walz administration.
So he knew about it.
He knew about it and did nothing. I wonder what his checks looked like. Listeners in shock. Organized corruption setting up perfectly to identify the political players allegedly protecting these schemes. See Reason writes, this is what tampon Tim Walz and little boy Mayor Frey is trying to protect with the help of Antifa and paid rioters from other states causing havoc in their communities. The socialists and communist Democrats don't care about hardworking Americans as long as there's chaos in the streets. Let me find that video. 1 second here. Okay, it's right here. Chaos in the streets. Here we go.
In Minnesota, and not everyone's excited.
Get out.
Sir, I'm just asking a simple question.
Get out. No, you don't ask me any question. Get out.
You have the opportunity
to answer the question. No. You can't ask me nothing. Get out. Get out of this, man. Get out. Get out, man. Get out.
Sir,
get out.
just answer the question.
No.
Just answer
Get
the
out.
question.
No, get out. Leave.
Sir, just answer the simple question.
Hey, don't touch me. You YouTube, man. You YouTube, man. Get out.
Calm down. You're not being accused of fraud. Shirley's just asking questions. It's not just daycares we're worried about. Primetime's digging into something even bigger. Hundreds of millions of dollars quietly moving through Minneapolis, heading straight to the Middle East. Homeland Security sources tell Primetime $700 million in cash was flown out of the Minneapolis airport in just the last 2 years, stuffed into luggage. That's 100 times more cash than what was moved out of JFK, Atlanta, and Dallas. To put it into perspective, Atlanta is the busiest airport in the United States. Minneapolis, 17th, with a quarter of the flights. Yet 100 times the cash is leaving the country. And it's not just Minneapolis. Investigators following the money trail backward, and they found another hub in Columbus, Ohio. Officers tracked $136 million in cash leaving the Columbus airport in 2023 alone. You know who lives in Columbus? Somalis. Lots of them. They have the second largest Somalian community in America, second to Minneapolis, of course. Interesting coincidence. But this isn't anything new. Agents have been tracking this as far back as 2017.
It's the morning of March 15th. We're chasing a tip about a man who's leaving the country. Our sources tell us he just took a carry-on bag through security that was packed with $1 million cash. You can do that as long as you fill out one of these government forms. We're told these cloak and dagger-like scenarios now happen almost weekly at MSP International. In 2015, investigators documented $14 million in carry-on cash. By 2016, it had mushroomed to $84 million, and then last year, $100 million.
So where's the cash headed? It could be going to terrorists.
Kearns tracked millions of dollars in cash that was leaving on flights from Seattle. It was coming from hawalas, businesses used to courier money to countries that have no official banking system. Some immigrant communities rely on hawalas to send funds to help impoverished relatives back home. Kearns discovered some of the money was being funneled to a hawala in a region of Somalia that's controlled by the Al-Shabaab terrorist group.
So I talked to a couple sources who had lived in that region, and I said, if money is going to this hawala, do you think it's going to Al-Shabaab? And he said, oh, definitely. That area is controlled by Al-Shabaab, and they control the hawala there.
Money's been flying out of Minneapolis for years. Fozia Ali pled guilty to daycare fraud in 2018, and the money she stole went international.
The business was suspected of billing the government for over $1 million worth of bogus child care services.
Did any of the money go overseas?
We are aware that some of the funds went overseas, which she was cashing out money from the business.
She'd taken a 2-month trip from Minnesota to Dubai and then Kenya, staying at times in $800 a night hotel rooms. She used an app on her phone to bill the state of Minnesota for child care services while she was out of the country.
Minnesota's had a dirty little secret for decades, and now the whole world knows.
If they had $700 million to send back to Somalia, if that's true, where's that coming from? That's an insane amount of money to send back to Somalia.
But this is also the gall. You're stealing welfare money and you're taking it out of the country, and you are so in the belief that you won't get caught. You're not smuggling it out. You're putting on the form, I'm taking $20 million out of the country.
They've been doing it for decades. And this is, I mean, when did we start mass immigrating people from Somalia into this country?
$700 million from here to there. No arrests, no charges. Has there ever even been an investigation? Tampon's more focused on protecting bad hombres than taxpayers. If terrorists get their hands on that money and target American soldiers, the blood's on Timmy's hands.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't want anybody recording Somali fraud. He wants you to record ICE. Who's trying to stop it? That's suspicious and makes me think Tampon could be in on it.
Oh, yeah, for sure he is.
Can he be that dumb? Shirley's back on the ground in Minnesota, and
I think he certainly is that dumb. And that's why people are driving by his house calling him retarded. Did you know that? $136 million been tracked from Columbus, taken to Minnesota. Somalis then combined the money from Ohio.
ATM machine moving money out of the United States from the Somali community. We now know that this money was being staged in multiple locations. This morning, the Transportation Security Administration confirming they tracked $136 million from Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio has the second largest Somali population after Minneapolis. The money is in suitcases in Columbus. It flies to Minnesota. It goes to Minneapolis, then the couriers in Minneapolis pick up that money, combine it with the money in Minnesota, and take it overseas. Now, why are we have banks, we have remittance centers. Why would the Somalis be doing all of this in suitcases, keeping it off the books and out of the radar? Why wasn't the Biden administration stopping it or raising questions about it? And where was that money ultimately going? Was it going to Al-Shabaab? Was it coming back into the United States in political donations? Was it just moving money out to help poor Somalis in their country? We're just starting to get a look at that. But this was a sophisticated money courier system, and Somalis are at the center of it. The same Somali communities that were defrauding the government were moving money out of the country.
Unbelievable. The Minnesota connection takes us
ATM
to...
machine.
Leads us to discover this is not isolated. Similar NGO fraud is happening nationwide with even bigger amounts. Independent journalists visit an NGO that has received $32 million in taxpayers' money. Nobody was there. The NGO received the money for clean water in Kenya. Both listed addresses for the NGO were shared spaces in D.C. with a single desk.
Millennium Water Alliance doesn't exist here?
Never heard of them. We found an NGO that received $35 million of taxpayer money.
Uh-oh, sorry.
Millennium Water Alliance doesn't exist here?
Never heard of them. We found an NGO that received $35 million of taxpayer money for water in Kenya.
So we decided to visit their headquarters in D.C. during their business hours, but no one was there.
What's the next investigation? What are we doing?
Millennium Water Alliance. It's supposed to be one big building with 4 or 5 different nonprofits that have collected together $4.6 million last year in grants. 1101 Connecticut Ave Northwest. Millennium Water Alliance doesn't exist here? Millennium Water Alliance? Okay.
No, it doesn't exist.
Okay. You said you've never heard of them before?
No, they probably never heard of them.
It says that this is the address, right?
This is the address.
I'm on the phone with my supervisor.
They don't exist here?
No.
Wow. It says their address is here. We came to talk to them about it, but you've never heard of them?
No.
Okay. Suite 450?
Oh, okay. He said Street 450.
1101 Connect.
You can sign it for me because they are mail carrier.
What is
it?
Mail carrier?
Yes. Yeah, so they pick up their mail from them, but they don't use their office.
So there's no office, but we can go up there essentially.
Yeah, you can go there and ask the front desk.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Sign it for me.
Okay.
So no one from that company actually like works here. It's just they pick up mail here.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Is there like an office though, or is it just a mailbox?
No, it's a office. It's an office space up there.
Oh, okay, but this is for mail.
It's a shared workspace, so it's a lot of companies up there.
Oh, it's a shared
workspace. Ask the front desk person when you get up there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Before we got to the place, we had a suspicion that this was actually an office that was shared by many other companies, and we were right.
As we were entering the elevator, we happened to run into the floor manager for that floor that was dropping his key back off and knew where their office was at.
You too.
Is this 450?
What are you coming to see?
Millennium Water Alliance?
Are they meeting you here?
Well, that's where it says they're at. Oh,
there
right
you
here.
go.
Yeah, they're, I haven't seen them today. I'll show you.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, I see. 426, I think as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like wrap around. Yeah, I don't think they're here yet. If you're supposed to meet them, this is their office.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Are they typically here, or is?
No.
Oh, they're
You're
never
just
here.
like dropping in.
Yeah, well, we were trying to do an interview with one of the people from the foundation, or from the. Oh, this is all it is?
This office, yeah.
Oh, we thought it was like a big.
Well, the way they have it on the internet, it looks like it's like a crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a sophisticated.
They might have like this could be like a satellite office.
All the other addresses in Kenya.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, like because this is like a co-work.
Yeah, I got it. But
like a WeWork.
It's typically empty though. Like it does not really.
Like they'll come in here on like they never use the office. They're always like in the.
Oh, just
the kitchen area.
Yeah, just hanging out. But there's a lot of people at least, or is it like a few people?
They're like 4 people that are kind of regular, but they'll have like conferences here with.
Okay.
With some people, so.
Well, I guess that's not.
They
gonna work
definitely
out.
aren't here very like regularly at all. Like I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
They're definitely gonna be here on a Tuesday or something like that.
It's just random.
Yeah, very sporadic. Like I saw them. Which is it's Friday. I saw them on Wednesday. I don't know when I saw them before that.
Oh, because online it looks like they're a big thing, and they get all this like millions of dollars from the government and stuff
Well,
like that.
I think they do. Like they're definitely a big organization. And
Yeah.
they're just
This is
kinda,
where are they at?
home, and then this is where they, if they need to have a meeting, they come here now.
Cool. Okay.
Well, all right.
We'll come back when they're, I
uh,
guess, open again.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We might have to start dropping up every day.
Yeah, randomly.
we don't know when they're here.
All right, so basically what happened is we went to this office. The guy showed us exactly where it's at. And he said that really it's one tiny little office here, and that you never know when you're going to see the people. They can drop in randomly. There's about 4 people, he said, that will randomly come in. But it's not like it's a bustling office space.
And the other thing is we're looking for National Cybersecurity Alliance that gets $500,000 in grants, and it's not here. And the lady at the front said that she's never heard of this before or anything.
Yeah, well, this is literally it. This is. You want to go check out the office again?
Yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable. With multiple fraud schemes exposed, federal agencies now launching serious investigations that could bring some real consequences. Scott Bessent, in short, says they are effed. IRS Service is launching audits of financial institutions facilitated the laundering of the Minnesota taxpayer funds.
I am pleased to announce that IRS Civil Enforcement is auditing financial institutions that facilitated the laundering of Minnesota funds, in addition to helping support criminal and civil enforcement efforts. The IRS will also soon announce the formation of a task force to investigate any fraud and abuse involving pandemic-era tax incentives and misuse of 501c3 tax-exempt status by entities implicated in the Minnesota-based social services fraud schemes. We are committed to preventing fraud and fraudulent nonprofits from taking advantage of the American taxpayer.
The walls are closing in, quite literally. The investigations are catching Trump's attention. His latest post suggests major action is coming to Minnesota specifically. TikTok, is President Trump planning something big? On January 13th, President Trump posted, "Fear not, great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming."
TikTok. Trump's teasing something big. Quote, "Fear not, great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming." 47 saying, "Sayonara, Somalis." He just ended their temporary protected status, something Democrats have used for years to let illegals flood the country. We gave Somalians temporary protection 35 years ago. Biden renewed it on his way out the door right after he pardoned his fam. But Trump says, time's up.
They're scammers. They're scammers. They always will be. And we're getting them out, and we're not going to pay them. They came from a place with nothing. And they come here and they drive around in Mercedes-Benz. You know, the Mercedes-Benz dealers do well in that area of Minnesota. Can you believe it? They have nothing. They get welfare payments and they have Mercedes-Benzes. It angers me so much.
81% of Somalis are on some kind of welfare. They came here for a free ride. That's not the American dream.
Yeah, it's the American scheme. That's what it is, more appropriately. Continuing, Trump's promise of retribution aligns with what insiders are saying about Minnesota Democrats being concerned and desperate. Glenn Beck, Minnesota leaders are backed into a corner with all the fraud evidence, but they're still trying to win. That's why they need to set the streets on fire.
They're now backed into a corner, and they are still trying to win. So what do they need to do? They need to set the streets on fire. They need absolute chaos. And the reason why they need absolute chaos is because that forces this administration, or any administration, this has happened over and over and over again in history. Look it up. The arsonists look and point the fingers at the firefighters and say, I think, look at the pattern. They're always at the scene of the crime. And you're like, they're the firefighters. But they get enough people to go, yeah, you're right. The firefighters are always at the scene of the crime. I think they're the arsonists. And all you need to do is divide and argue, and you get away with it. That's exactly what's happening in Minnesota. We are talking about a crime of probably the biggest, we haven't gotten to California yet, probably the biggest heist of taxpayer money in a state ever. It is, and it's everywhere. It's in the banking system. It is all throughout the state government. I mean, at every level. It is obviously at the airport, in the TSA in Minneapolis. I mean, who's not involved in this? Except for the people who are now in the street because they've just become zombified. No, Tim Walz is good. No, Everybody is, these Somalis are all good. Well, some of them are. And by the way, I don't want to blame it on the Somalis. The Somalis are the last ones that I care about, honestly, in this, because I want to know who in the banking system, who in the government were doing. If you don't clean that up, forget the Somalis. They'll just be replaced by somebody else. Because all that the state was doing was just buying votes. So if it's not them, it'll be somebody else. But what are they doing? They're setting the world on fire. They're setting that whole thing on fire because they are pointing to the DOJ. They're pointing to to ICE, who is going in and rounding really bad people up, pointing to them and say, they're the arsonists. They're the ones. And the language has changed. For the first time, we have a governor actually talking about civil war. You want a civil war? We'll fight a civil war. I'm already getting the National Guard together and telling them, and they're training for what's going on with our feds coming in. You can't do that. That's absolutely against the Constitution. You can't do that. You'd be arrested the minute you do that. He's not going to do that. He just needs you to be the Army.
Are you the Army? We're paying attention. We're exposing it. That description explains exactly why whistleblowers are coming forward with bombshell allegations about who knew what and did nothing. Just the News reports, according to whistleblowers that we're communicating with, they warned Walz and Ellison for years it was taking place. Comer says he's working to verify allegations of whistleblowers that were intimidated after bringing attention to the fraud.
According to the whistleblowers that we're communicating with, they've warned Walz and Ellison, the Attorney General, for years that this fraud was taking place. Not only did Ellison and Walz turn a blind eye, they retaliated and intimidated anyone that was brave enough to come forward within the state government to say that there's fraud taking place. So, that's the case. That's going to have to be proven. We're looking into that. We've got lots of allegations, and we're doing everything in our ability to verify to see if that's the truth. That is in fact true, and they retaliated against whistleblowers. Then I think that's a crime that should end in some type of arrest, because that's a very serious crime to intimidate whistleblowers. To be incompetent is not a crime, or there'll be a lot of Democrats in prison right now. But if you knowingly turned a blind eye to fraud, and even further, if you intimidated whistleblowers, then that certainly is a crime.
Wow. The whistleblower revelations expand our scope beyond Minnesota to show the national pattern of government program abuse. Fraudsters are taking advantage of SNAP food stamps by filling in 5 different states using dead people's information and selling the food stamps for money. That's what Elon Musk posted. His revelation connects to broader allegations against specific political figures in the epicenter. Ilhan Omar committed fraud. Bree73 says, these individual accusations point to systematic voter fraud that goes hand in hand with the financial schemes that we've been tracking. Benny Johnson writes there are 26 registered voters in at this toilet in California. He says, I'm not kidding. I have the voter record. See for yourself. The only thing here is a stinky porta-john inside an empty parking lot. No homes, no mailboxes, yet 26 people are casting ballots here.
Yo, what's up, guys? We're outside of a very important place here in California. You'll see it's just home to a porta-john and a giant empty parking lot. But inside of this empty parking lot is something really important in the state of California. As you can see here, we have registered voters. 26 registered voters for this exact location, 100 Sunset Avenue in Venice. 26 registered voters. Right here, according to the registrar and the Secretary of State. 26 people registered to a porta-john and an empty parking lot. Where do their ballots go exactly? So who's picking up the ballots? Who's voting for the people in this lovely porta-john empty lot? That's the question. I think you know the answer.
Yeah. That's how they steal elections. Oh, man, it's all getting exposed in real time. The voting irregularities lead us to congressional action where lawmakers have been fighting the fraud for years. Senator John Kennedy.
I want to talk to you about the Ending Improper Payments to Deceased People Act. Boy, that's a mouthful. Here's what I want to talk about. Many Louisianians read the stories about the welfare fraud in Minnesota and, frankly, in other states. And it makes them nauseous. I feel the same way. That's why I have been working for years, literally years, to target welfare fraud, especially the fraudsters who conduct fraud in the name of deceased Americans. In 2023 alone, for example, the federal government sent $1.3 billion, not million, billion. The federal government sent $1.3 billion to dead people. It's so pervasive that the Social Security Administration, which maintains a list of dead Americans known as the Death Master File, if someone dies, the state sends the name of the deceased person to the Social Security Administration, and that person's name is listed on what's called the Death Master File. We found that Social Security was not sharing this information, the names of the folks on the Death Master File, with the rest of the federal government. One branch of government wasn't talking to another branch of government. The Social Security Administration told me when I confronted them about this and asked them, why don't you talk to your colleagues and other colleagues in the federal government so we can stop paying dead people? Social Security told me it needed Congress's permission to share this information with, for example, the Treasury Department, so it could include the list of dead Americans in its do not pay system. I didn't argue with them. I said, I'm just going to go pass a bill. Well, a few years ago I did. I passed a bill called the Stopping Improper Payments to Deceased People Act. And that bill allowed the Social Security Administration to temporarily share its Death Master File with the Department of the Treasury. I had to amend the bill to provide, it's a long story and it was frustrating, to provide for a temporary sharing. They wanted to try it out first. Well, it worked. Duh. Since December of 2023, this bill has saved the federal government at least $330 million in improper payments. We're no longer paying dead people and having their friends or relatives or whomever cash the checks. It was obvious that Congress needed to make this data sharing arrangement permanent. So I had to introduce, and was happy to do it, I introduced a second bill to do just that. That's why it took years to get this done. This week, I'm pleased to say the House passed my bill, the Ending Improper Payments to Deceased People Act. This bill had already passed the Senate, and now that it's passed the House, it's on its way to President Trump's desk so he can sign it into law. Now, dead people don't need welfare.
Can you believe that? How long it took him to get that done? Congress passing anti-fraud legislation creates the perfect storm as federal agents simultaneously conduct active investigations. ICE posting HSI zeroing in on the rampant fraud. Despite violent riots, our agents and officers are on the ground in Minneapolis conducting investigations into the massive theft. We're not slowing down. An immigrant in Minnesota is seen scooping all the change out of the fountain in the Mall of America. They're stealing millions with fake daycare companies. We're paying for them to be on government welfare, and now this.
Boy, look, he over there scooping this shit. He over there scooping the change out there, bitch. I said, look at him. He going back.
Yeah. They're stealing from the fountains, too. That's where we're at now. So President Trump posted a warning to Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. Federal investigations are converging. Whistleblowers are talking. Paper trails are being traced. Chairman Comer says he's working to verify allegations that whistleblowers were intimidated after bringing attention to the fraud. So the question is no longer whether the fraud is real. The question is how many people at the top knew, who protected it, and how far this cancer has spread. So it's not about mismanagement or bureaucratic errors. This is organized looting of the American treasury. Billions stolen through fake daycares, SNAP fraud, and NGO money laundering, cash loaded onto planes and shipped overseas, while politicians look the other way. Whistleblowers warned Walz and Ellison for years, and nothing was done. Now federal investigators are closing in, and suddenly the streets erupt in flames. It's not a coincidence. The riots are designed to distract, to delay, and to create the chaos while the guilty scramble to cover their tracks. But the IRS is auditing the banks, Congress is investigating, and President Trump has promised a day of reckoning. Minnesota is not just burning, it's been being audited. So here's my question. Do you believe the Minnesota riots are being used to cover up fraud investigations? Yes or no? Answer in the comments and check out the Next News merch shop, linked below. All right, we're moving right along here today. Okay. Just checking all systems are firing as they should. And Brian, did you hit that? Brian? Did you hit the mark out? Okay. All right. Perfect. Just a second. We gotta switch the transcription service. Okay. All right, 1 minute. How about that story, man? From Kennedy. How many years did it take him to get that thing passed? Because the Social Security wouldn't share the information with the Treasury Department, so the Treasury just kept sending checks. Dude, that is the most blind, inept. That's one of the biggest. I can't even. What do you even call that? It just shows the problem with government to begin with. Let's see. Wait a second. Want me to add? Okay, just a second. We're going into our next topic here. Let me get these things loaded up. What is she saying here, Caroline Levitt?
Along with the PPI,
Just a second, guys. Where is that clip?
They're now backed into a corner, and they are still trying to win. So what do they need to do? They need to set the streets on fire. They need absolute chaos. And the reason why they need absolute chaos is because that forces this administration, or any administration, this has happened over and over and over again in history. Look it up. The arsonists look and point the fingers at the firefighters and say, I think, look at the pattern. They're always at the scene of the crime. And you're like, they're the firefighters. But they get enough people to go, yeah, you're right. The firefighters are always at the scene of the crime. I think they're the arsonists. And all you need to do is divide and argue, and you get away with it. That's exactly what's happening in Minnesota. We are talking about a crime of probably the biggest, we haven't gotten to California yet, probably the biggest heist of taxpayer money in a state ever. It is, and it's everywhere. It's in the banking system. It is all throughout the state government. I mean, at every level. It is obviously at the airport, in the TSA in Minneapolis. I mean, who's not involved in this? Except for the people who are now in the street because they've just become zombified. No, Tim Walz is good. No, everybody is. These Somalis are all good. Well, some of them are. And by the way, I don't want to blame it on the Somalis. The Somalis are the last ones that I care about, honestly, in this. Because I want to know who in the banking system, who in the government were doing. If you don't clean that up, forget the Somalis. They'll just be replaced by somebody else. Because all that the state was doing was just buying votes. So if it's not them, it'll be somebody else. But what are they doing? They're setting the world on fire. They're setting that whole thing on fire because they are pointing to the DOJ. They're pointing to to ICE, who is going in and rounding really bad people up, pointing to them and say, they're the arsonists. They're the ones. And the language has changed. For the first time, we have a governor actually talking about civil war. You want a civil war? We'll fight a civil war. I'm already getting the National Guard together and telling them, and they're training for what's going on with our feds coming in. You can't do that. That's absolutely against the Constitution. You can't do that. You'd be arrested the minute you do that. He's not going to do that. He just needs you to be the army.
And I'm going to play that clip again of Kennedy.
I want to talk to you about the Ending Improper Payments to Deceased People Act. Boy, that's a mouthful. Here's what I want to talk about. Many Louisianians read the stories about the welfare fraud in Minnesota and, frankly, in other states, and it makes them nauseous. I feel the same way. That's why I have been working for years, literally years, to target welfare fraud, especially the fraudsters who conduct fraud in the name of deceased Americans. In 2023 alone, for example, the federal government sent $1.3 billion, not million, billion. The federal government sent $1.3 billion to dead people. It's so pervasive that the Social Security Administration, which maintains a list of dead Americans known as the Death Master File, if someone dies, the state sends the name of the deceased person to the Social Security Administration, and that person's name is listed on what's called the Death Master File. We found that Social Security was not sharing this information, the names of the folks on the Death Master File, with the rest of the federal government. One branch of government wasn't talking to another branch of government. The Social Security Administration told me when I confronted them about this and asked them, why don't you talk to your colleagues and other colleagues in the federal government so we can stop paying dead people. Social Security told me it needed Congress's permission to share this information with, for example, the Treasury Department. So it could include the list of dead Americans and its do not pay system. I didn't argue with them. I said, I'm just going to go pass a bill. Well, a few years ago I did. I passed a bill called the Stopping Improper Payments to Deceased People Act. And that bill allowed the Social Security Administration to temporarily share its death master file with the Department of the Treasury. I had to amend the bill to provide, it's a long story, and it was frustrating.
Okay. Sorry about the delay. I'm waiting for this to load. Okay, Brian, I'm ready. A reporter stood inside an American auto plant today, surrounded by workers and executives, and asked one of the dumbest questions in recent memory. How does making American vehicles more affordable help American auto workers? That actually happened, and the reaction was immediate because while the press class struggled to understand basic economics, the data is pouring in and it's undeniable. Prices are falling, wages are rising, and the media can't spin it their way. What's at stake here is whether you could trust anything corporate press tells you about the economy. For years, they insisted inflation was transitory. They told you high prices were the new normal. They said you have to accept less. Now the numbers are proving them wrong, and they just can't handle it. Vehicle prices are down. Manufacturing wages are up $1,300 over the past year. Mortgage rates have fallen more than a full percentage point. Monthly mortgage rates payments have dropped from $2,700 to $2,400. That's a $3,000 a year cash in your pocket. Home sales just hit their fastest pace in 3 years. Retail sales are solid across the board. And a reporter asked how lower prices help workers. That's not journalism. That's ideology crashing into reality. Now, this just in from the critical minerals sector. Titanium is now surging to the forefront of defense priorities. It's lightweight, incredibly strong, and essential to military aircraft. An F-35 is up to 40% titanium by weight. With jets deployed near Venezuelan airspace right now, supply security is no longer optional, and Saga Metals is positioned at the center of the story, drilling in strategic locations as Western nations race to secure resources. Trading as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada, this company is moving fast. You got to see the full briefing linked in the description immediately. Now, the wins keep stacking up. The FCC under Brendan Carr announced wireless cell phone plans are down 7% from Biden-era highs. They killed the Biden plan that would have spiked internet prices for apartment dwellers up 50%. President Trump terminated the CAFE standards that were quietly adding thousands to vehicle prices. Secretary Duffy says that alone means at least at least $1,000 price cut for car buyers. Major companies are offering matching contributions to Trump accounts for employees, and at the Detroit Economic Club, attendees said it plainly they are in better shape financially now than ever before. Making America affordable again, that's the tweet. Keeping it simple there. This is the economic victory lap that is now being set up right now. We're going to dive into it. Fox Business on November retail sales. This was solid, up 3.3% from a year ago.
Along with the PPI, the retail sales numbers came out today. What were the retail sales?
This was solid. It captures how consumers spent our money right around Christmas time. So November retail sales up 3.3% from a year ago. This is where we spent. Clothing sales up 7.5% online. More than 7% strong numbers for beauty, for restaurants, for sales at gas stations. All of these were up except for building materials. Those sales fell, as did furniture. But overall, I'd say heading into the end of last year, the consumer showed some resilience. And there you have it, how we spent our money, where we spent it, all the categories.
So prices are moving. America is just getting restored. The retail numbers are just the surface. The press secretary is about to break down the real estate boom that changes everything, laying out the economic progress under Trump.
President Trump is making America affordable again through his President Trump is making America affordable again through his proven economic formula of powerful tariffs, fair trade deals, massive middle-class tax cuts, energy dominance, and aggressive deregulation. The overwhelmingly positive economic data released this week underscores the significant progress the president has already delivered. Tuesday's CPI report marked the latest confirmation that President Trump has defeated Joe Biden's inflation crisis. Since President Trump took office, core CPI has increased at just a 2.4% annualized rate, substantially lower than the 3.3% annual rate inherited from the Biden administration last January. Importantly, as inflation cools, Americans' wages are rising, giving the American people more purchasing power. And with what is likely going to be a record-breaking tax refund season in the next couple of weeks, the American people will be reaping the rewards of the massive tax cuts that were signed into law by the president. Thanks to President Trump's signing of no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, boosting the child tax credit, and locking in the 2017 Trump tax cuts, independent estimates project the average American tax filer could expect up to an extra $1,000 bump to their tax refund next year. This is going to be a helpful boost to working families who are making ends meet. On the energy front, the national average price for a gallon of regular gas this week fell to its lowest level in 5 years, thanks to President Trump's drill baby drill agenda. According to Gas Buddy, the average price for regular gas on Monday was below $3 per gallon in 43 states, below $2.75 per gallon in 30 states, and at or below $2.50 per gallon in 17 states. In fact, gas prices were below $2 a gallon at stations in at least 19 states. Don't forget, this was unheard of just a couple of short years ago. Overall, drivers are projected to spend $11 billion less at the gas pump this year than they did last year, resulting in hundreds of dollars in critical savings for the average American family.
So that's it right there from the White House. She's giving us the big picture. Wait until you hear the specific mortgage data that's making home ownership great again.
According to a new report also released this week from the National Association of Realtors, existing home sales in December rose to their fastest pace in 3 years. To further improve housing affordability, President Trump has recently announced and directed Fannie and Freddie to purchase $200 billion worth of mortgage bonds. As a result of these actions, mortgage rates have fallen to their lowest level in years. As of last Friday, rates for the average 30-year mortgage are down more than 1 full percentage point. Because of these significant declines, monthly housing payments are now at their lowest level in 2 years, and we expect this decrease to continue. As someone who was enormously successful in real estate, President Trump understands that owning a home is about more than just having a physical asset. It's about empowering young people to stake their claim in the American dream. It's about giving newlyweds a place to make their own and start a family. It's about promoting the spirit of hard work, determination, and yes, the rugged individualism that has made America the greatest country in the history of the world. President Trump knows America is strongest when it's a nation of owners, not renters, and he is determined to unlock that opportunity for as many Americans as possible. That's why he will outline additional housing initiatives during his major speech in Davos next week, and we look forward to seeing many of you there.
President Trump going to Davos, going to bring America first right to the globalists. The mortgage rate drop is massive, but there's more major savings on everyday items in America. Detroit News, the Trump economic boom is happening. Hold that thought. We got pushback from the press corps, but watch how the administration handles it. This reporter question, the top contender for one of the dumbest reporter questions ever. The media is getting frustrated, but here's the concrete policy changes putting money back in people's pockets. Here is Secretary Duffy.
Well, first off, President Trump has put his whole team in place to make sure we're pushing to have rules and regulations that are going to drive down prices. So you and I have talked about this a little bit, but CAFE standards, where the liberals, the Democrats wanted to have a transition to electric vehicles, which are driving up the cost of gas-powered autos, and the American people were paying the price. We are taking that standard, the CAFE standard, from almost 60 miles a gallon back down to a reasonable standard of 35 miles a gallon. What that's going to mean is at least $1,000 in a price cut for those who are buying vehicles in America. Not only that, President Trump has been focused on energy prices. Our gas prices are at a 6-year low. So, again, it's an all-of-government approach, and that's why we're here together working on these policies, but also making sure the auto workers know that this administration is paying attention.
Vehicle savings are just one piece. Now we get the manufacturing wage increases that are boosting paychecks nationwide. U.S. Trade Ambassador Greer.
I think one thing to keep in mind are what are the trends looking like? And if you look at the inflation numbers from last month, it shows that the price for vehicles went down. So that's exactly the right direction. And the other thing to keep in mind is that wages are going up. And so with the president's trade policies, which are encouraging more production of vehicles right here in Ohio, right here in America, we're also seeing manufacturing wages up by $1,300 over the past year. So with the price of vehicles starting to get in the right trend, going the way down, and the wages going up, that's exactly the type of trends that we want to see to make sure that Americans can buy the cars that they're making.
Even CNN can't ignore the numbers. Homeowners are saving thousands of dollars, and that is just the beginning of the economic story.
Let's just say you're buying a $500,000 home. You're putting 20% down. A year ago, your monthly payments were almost $2,700 for principal and interest. Now they're around $2,400. Now, that might not sound like that much. It's about $260 difference. But over the course of a year, you're talking about $3,000 less in interest. Over the course of a loan, it's over $90,000. So that's huge, right? Wow. That's less money going to the bank, more for everything else in life. Now, all of this comes after the White House has really started to focus more on this issue of housing affordability, right? The president wants to ban large institutional investors from scooping up single-family homes. And significantly, he announced plans to have Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac buy $200 billion of mortgage bonds. And experts are saying that those efforts from the president, they're already helping to drive down mortgage rates, which, of course, is encouraging. Yeah.
All right. CNN, they can't spin it. Individual savings are adding up, but corporations are responding too. The next announcement shows business confidence is soaring. ICI announces Trump account matching contribution. $1,000 matching contribution to its employees on Trump accounts. Yet another employer recognizing the benefits of the landmark program for the next generation of Americans. The private sector's buying in, but on the ground level, we're going to go there where Trump is speaking directly to the workers. Seen on TV in Grand Rapids, President Trump at the Rouge River facility.
President Trump spent part of his day in Michigan. He toured an automotive factory where the Ford F-Series trucks are produced, and he spoke to the Detroit Economic Club.
Political reporter Rick Albin has been monitoring Trump's comments and joins us with more on what he had to say.
Sue and Brian, the president came to Michigan at least partially to talk about the economy. At a factory of one of the biggest industries in the state, the automotive sector, President Trump was at the Rouge River facility with William Clay Ford Jr. and Ford CEO Jim Farley before heading to the Economic Club. While he was at that factory, he talked about what he says is a strong automotive industry, a premise with which Ford seemed to agree.
But they're just saying their business is better than ever. They're doing 24 hours, Jim, now, 6 days a week, and they do expansions, and they're building more plants in the United States because of tariffs. And Jim said, and Bill very strongly confirmed, they've never seen anything like it. In all of the years that they've been in business, they've never seen what's happening now like it. So it's a great honor. But so this plant, you might talk about it. This plant goes 24 hours around the clock. Before, it used to go 3 hours around the clock.
No, it will. So we're adding a third shift, and it's going to be running, as the president said, 24 hours, 6 days a week. And that just shows the demand there is for this product, which is the best-selling product, as you all know, in America.
Wow. They show B-roll with Mike Pence. That's horrible. From the boardroom to Main Street, here's what actual Detroit residents are saying about the situation. Attendees of the speech at Detroit Economic Club.
U.S. auto factories are now seeing more than $70 billion of new investment. Think of that. They were leaving. They were all going. They were going in the opposite direction.
Addressing the Detroit Economic Club in his third visit.
Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And much of that money is coming right here to the car-making capital.
President Donald Trump touting great progress lowering inflation and increasing jobs and global investment. His message including a claim of bringing in $18 trillion from all over the world, driving the stock market higher. This as Ford Motor Company will add 1,200 jobs to the Dearborn truck plant, building the F-150, which Trump visited earlier.
Inflation way down, but we inherited terrible growth, and we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country.
Trump pledging to lower emission standards and eliminate fraud. On tariffs, Trump adding they've helped bring fairness and create partnerships that benefit us all. The president also saying grocery prices and gas prices are falling despite other claims.
It's tariffs that are making money for Michigan, and the entire country is stronger and safer and richer.
Among those in the crowd, I asked Metro Detroiters for their response.
From my own personal experience, I'm in much better shape financially now than I was 4 years ago.
He's going to fight the inflation. He's going to get rid of the corruption. We can bring the gas prices down, help the families that don't own any homes right now. A lot of people looking for homeowners.
Home ownership, man. That's the American dream. President Trump's allowing us to recapture it. Real people, real savings, but this economic transformation goes beyond just housing and wages. Infrastructure changes too. Building high-speed infrastructure across the country, FCC cracking down on illegal robocalls, strengthening national security, eliminating waste and modernizing operation. From robocalls to broadband, the administration is cutting costs across every part of American life. Wireless cell phone plans are down 7% from Biden-era highs due to the opening of the new spectrum. We ended Biden-era plan. We could have spiked from the price of internet services Americans are buying in apartment buildings. So I want to find that clip that didn't load earlier from Don Jr. And this is the reporter question. Here it is.
For American, do I understand your question correctly? You're asking how does it help the American auto worker when prices come down for American auto cars? Okay, so when the prices come down on American auto cars, more people buy American auto cars. They'll buy more American trucks. So when you buy an American vehicle instead of a foreign vehicle, that means that the American company is making more money, that there is a need for plants to be making more vehicles. The more that people buy American vehicles, the better it is for American companies. The more money they make, the more vehicles that are needed, the more workers they need, the more hours, the more trucks they build. It's a beautiful thing for our country, and very obviously strongly helps the American economy, the American auto companies, the American auto workers, when the price comes down and more people are able to buy American vehicles. Do I understand your question correctly? You're asking
yeah, Leslie Zeldin. Donald Trump Jr., this reporter's question is a top contender for one of the dumbest reporter questions ever. But you heard the press secretary laying it out clearly. Existing home sales rose to their fastest pace in 3 years. Mortgage rates are at their lowest level in years. Retail numbers are strong. Manufacturing wages are climbing. The data released this week underscores the progress already delivered. And what does the press do? They ask how affordability helps workers. That question is the tell. They're not confused. They're desperate because the narrative just collapsed. So for years, Americans were told to accept decline. Inflation was permanent. High prices were here to stay. Affordable housing was a fantasy. The experts said so. The media repeated it. Now every single metric is moving in the other direction. Car prices are down, wages are up, mortgage payments are falling, home sales are surging, cell phone plans are cheaper, internet price hikes are killed, and the corporate press responds by asking how lower prices help workers. That's not a serious question. That's a confession. They can't process good news because it destroys the story that they've been selling. The American people see through it now. The data is real, the relief is real, and no amount of spin can change it. So here's my question. Do you trust the mainstream media to report honestly on the economy? Yes or no? Answer in the comments and visit the Next News merch shop, linked in the description. Okay. Let's see if there's any super chats here. Okay, no super chats to speak of. Okay. All right. Brian, did you mark out T4 yet? Did you hit save? Okay. We'll wait for this to load and then we'll get started on our next segment. Oh, a couple super chats. Look at that. Bill's Rules, $4.99. Thank you. And do you hashtag $10? How is the MSN not guilty of conspiracy to commit terrorism, psychological or treason like denying mass voter fraud, also endangering lives by saying peaceful protests when a Molotov bursts? Yeah, they're complicit, man. They certainly are. Okay, Brian. Congress has been caught. A reporter asked a congresswoman if her husband's stock purchase was based on inside information. Her response, 100% it was not. And if it was, he would have bought a lot more. She actually said that out loud on camera. And that answer tells you everything you need to know about how Washington really works. The rules are for you, not for them. But something just changed, and the people who got rich playing the system are starting to sweat. And what's at stake is whether elected officials can continue to get rich off information you don't have access to. Members of Congress sit on committees that control billions in spending. They know which contracts are coming. They know which industries will be regulated. They know what's going to happen before you do, and they trade stocks based on that knowledge. 3 Democrats on powerful spending committees just got exposed, raking in gains up to 250% on stocks directly tied to the billions that they control. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Representative Susie Lee, Senator Mark Warner, a Republican congressman dumped $130,000 in Medicaid-linked stocks 7 days before voting to slash nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid. It's not a partisan problem. It's a Washington problem. And some breaking news in the critical minerals sector. Titanium now at the center of defense and industrial priorities. This metal is essential. An F-35 fighter jet is up to 40% titanium by weight. Now, these aircraft are actively deployed right now. And Saga Metals is moving fast, drilling in strategic locations as nations race to secure supply chains. Trading as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada, this is a developing opportunity investors cannot ignore. The window is open. You need to see the full briefing that is linked in the description. Now, the Stop Insider Trading Act just advanced out of committee on a 7-4 vote. Under this bill, members of Congress, their spouses, and dependent children would be banned from purchasing publicly traded stocks. Now, they would have to disclose sales 7 days in advance. Speaker Mike Johnson says every member has a duty to restore the American people's trust, but critics are blasting the bill as a loophole-filled half measure that lawmakers keep existing stocks and trade through exemptions. Senators Ashley Moody and Kirsten Gillibrand introduced a stronger bipartisan bill that requires full divestment within 180 days. Nancy Mace said it plainly, Congress will not ban their own insider trading because both parties are too busy getting rich. DeSoto Wilson writes, congressional insider trading gives lawmaker a distinct advantage of using non-public information to garner a higher percentage of winning and profitable trades in various types of securities. This sets up the scandal perfectly, and let's see how these fears are spreading beyond Congress. Polymarket faces insider trading fears as Maduro trade shakes prediction markets. While prediction markets are facing scrutiny, individual corporate insiders are still making bold moves. And here's more proof. SMU, huge insider buy from a director even after 75% of the past 3 months. Look at these numbers. Can you even see them? Common stock. 114-2026. 1,600, 3,780, 7,820. Look at all that. Oh my goodness. Holy cow. $337. Is that per share? Amount of securities. Holy cow. Huge insider buy from a director, even after up 75%. Corporate insider buying is one thing, but when lawmakers do it with policy knowledge, that's where the real outrage begins. Senators Ashley Moody and Gillibrand announced the introduction of the bipartisan bill that would ban members of Congress, their immediate family members, from owning or trading individual stocks. It sounds promising, but we'll see. Some lawmakers think it's political theater. Nancy Mace, Congress won't ban their own stock trading because both parties are getting rich.
Know where we stand, by the way, on the insider trading ban in Congress?
Well, right now, Jesse, I just heard from Hakeem Jeffries that he doesn't want to have his Democrats sign on to the legislation, even though 100 members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, have actually said that they want to support this coalition bill because of the fact that it does include the executive branch. But here's the interesting fact, Jesse. If Congress was required to adhere to the same standards that the executive branch is under, there would be no insider trading. And it is happening on both sides, and it needs to end. And so I'm formally calling on both Speaker Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries to do what they can, huddle settle if you need be, but come up with a consensus bill and put it on the floor before the end of the year, because 87% of Americans want this to end, and it has to for the sacred sanctity of our country.
All right, so when Democrats controlled Congress, the Republicans said they wanted to ban stock trading. And then when Republicans control the Congress, nothing happens. Got it. I think I understand what's going on here.
We're trying, but it's an uphill battle.
All right.
Sure.
Yeah. She's not a popular person in Congress right now. She's calling out the hypocrisy, but wait to hear about the existing laws that are supposedly preventing this. Julie Donuts writes, we already have the Stock Act of 2012 to stop Congress, which makes insider trading illegal. The 2012 Stock Act was meant to solve this, but new evidence shows the problem's gotten worse. Speaker Mike Johnson, every member of Congress has a duty to help restore American people's trust in this institution. House Republicans are taking a real positive, tangible step towards the Stop Insider Trading Act, a serious effort to crack down on abuses that, let's see.
But every member of this institution has a personal duty to do their part to restore the trust of...
They're making too much money. Why would they want to vote again? Why would they want to vote something like that?
Congress, and particularly as we begin our 250th year as a nation. And I think this is a really important theme. But along that line, Republicans are going to take an important step in our efforts to restore the people's faith in Congress. And one of those big issues is the Stop Inside Trading Act. Now, I want to tip my hat to Congressman Brian Stile. He's the chairman of our House Administration Committee, and he's done an excellent job navigating through the various provisions of this and all the members and making sure everybody's on board. Everybody wants to block and stop nefarious activity and insider trading, but it needs to be done in a thoughtful manner, and Brian Stile's done a great job. So members of our House Republican Conference have worked on this issue for years, and the result is a bill that I think we're going to be we'll be able to pass with I hope a wide bipartisan margin.
Yeah, a bipartisan margin, my ass. That's never going to happen. Holy cow. Speaker Johnson talks accountability, but explosive new data reveals how profitable these abuses have been for the Democrats. Mila Joy, 3 Dems and powerful spending committees just got exposed, raking in up to 250% gains on a stock directly tied to the billions that they control. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Susie Lee, and Mark Warner. Let's see if we can find that clip for you. Oh, my God. The billions that they control. Let's see, where's the... here it is. Here.
We noticed Representative... Back in November, we noticed Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz buying stock in a company called Viasat, and it really caught our eye because it was the first time we'd seen her buy the stock, and it was the first time we'd seen any member buy the stock.
Okay, so Debbie Wasserman Schultz sits on the Appropriations Committee and the Subcommittee on Military Construction. That's not a good look right off the bat.
And then in December, it was announced that Viasat would be awarded part of like a $4 billion NASA contract, and the stock just rose.
Looks like they got another big contract also with the Department of Defense right after the NASA contract.
A couple years ago, we saw Representative Susie Lee buy stock in a company called Rheinmetall. Which is a German defense contractor, which, I mean, that rang alarm bells for us because it was a stock we hadn't really seen any members trade before, and obviously very tied into U.S. defense policy.
Looks like they're doing a lot of work with the Army lately. Tank modernization, I bet there's big money in that.
Susie Lee sat on a committee on military construction, and since then the stock's risen like I think 250%. Last year we saw Senator Mark Wayne Mullen buy stock in a company called Badger Meter, which really caught our attention because Badger Meter makes automated water meters, and Senator Mark Wayne Mullen sits on the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, and we learned that the EPA had recently passed a mandate basically encouraging cities to switch to automated water meters. The year following the trade, Badger Meter stock rose around 40% before Senator Mark Wayne Mullen closed his position. Back in November, we noticed Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz buying stock.
Okay, we'll keep going here. These are not small gains we're talking about. We're seeing massive returns that would make Wall Street jealous. The public outcry is growing, but Republicans may have found a loophole-filled solution that protects their own interests. Let's see.
So Congress is finally voting to ban themselves from trading stocks, but there's a massive catch that makes this whole thing feel almost meaningless. If you want to understand why, you just have to take a look at this one chart of the stock trade volume of Senator John Hickenlooper. Over 3 years, he made just over 50 trades, which is really not that much, but he's worth over $30 million. You see, the new law is called the Stop Insider Trading Act, and on paper, it looks good. It stops members of Congress and their spouses from buying new individual stocks. And if you can't buy new stocks, you can't insider trade, right? Well, according to the reporters over at Sludge, there's a pretty serious loophole here. You see, this law doesn't force members of Congress to sell the individual stocks that they already own, and it doesn't put their assets in a blind trust. It kind of just freezes their portfolios in place. Some prominent Democrats have pointed out that this law mostly just protects the wealthiest members of Congress without really reforming the problem. But what do they mean by that? Well, that gets us back to Senator Hickenlooper. He doesn't trade much, but he holds a ton of stock. He walked into Congress with an already pretty robust stock portfolio, many tech stocks. But Hickenlooper sits on the subcommittee for consumer protection, technology, and data privacy. He's presided over hearings on data security standards, consumer protections, and risks of new technology. And while holding these stocks, he's not exactly been a critic of big tech. He failed to sign on to multiple antitrust bills that his colleagues supported. So it's no surprise then that Google, Apple, and Microsoft are among his top donors, because when these companies do well, he does well. How could he ignore that? Holding these stocks at all is a conflict of interest in and of itself, and Hickenlooper isn't remotely alone here. South Carolina House Rep Ralph Norman sits on the Financial Services Committee while holding over $1 million in shares of American banks. Texas Rep Craig Goldman, who sits on an energy subcommittee, holds up to $5.5 million in oil and gas companies. Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty is chair of a subcommittee on financial services, but holds stock in major financial companies like Pinnacle Bank, Ares Capital, and bought stock in JP Morgan Chase and Blackstone since joining the Senate. So this bill doesn't really reform the system, it just locks in this current level of corruption. Real reforms like the Restore Trust in Congress Act would force members of Congress to actually sell their stocks or at least put them in a blind trust, which is really the only way to ensure that our representatives stop caring about share prices and start caring about us. The current bill fails to do that. It's not about stopping insider trading, it's about grandfathering it in and taking credit for fixing a problem without actually solving it.
So we already have laws against this. The Stock Act of 2012 made congressional insider trading illegal, but nobody enforced it. Nobody goes to jail, and the trades keep happening in plain sight. Representative Lisa McClain's husband bought stock in Elon Musk's XAI days before the Pentagon expanded its role. Her defense was a joke. The American people are watching their representatives get rich while telling them to trust the system. Well, that trust is gone. So this legalized corruption, and they do it right in front of you. Members of Congress write the laws that move markets, then trade stocks based on that, what they know is coming. They sit on committees that award contracts, then buy shares in companies that win. When caught, they laugh it off and say they would have bought more if it was really insider trading. The Stock Act was supposed to stop this. It didn't. Now the Stop Insider Trading Act is moving forward, but critics say it's full of loopholes designed to protect the guilty. Americans are done being told to trust institutions that exist to enrich the people running them. You see, the swamp protects itself, but the spotlight is now on and the pressures are building. So here is the question. Should members of Congress be banned from trading individual stocks? Yes or no? Answer in the comments. And check out the Next News merch shop, linked in the description. So what a night, America. Let's bring it all together. Let me just check on a message here from Brian. Let's see if he was able to do that. Okay. Okay. Minneapolis remains under siege. Rioters tearing down fences outside ICE facilities, openly coordinating their attacks, anti-ICE mobs storming the Minnesota state capitol. Known gang member already smashed open an FBI weapons locker and stole a rifle. He's been arrested, but the chaos continues. 24 Democrat lawmakers flew into rally against agents organized by Ilhan Omar herself. Governor Walz ignoring every warning. Tom Homan meeting with President Trump about invoking the Insurrection Act. The president has drawn his line. If Minnesota politicians won't uphold the law, then he will. Then we watch Canada's prime minister stand in Beijing and say the words out loud, New World Order. Mark Carney slashed tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and opened the floodgates for 49,000 of them to pour into Canada. He praised the partnership with China and admitted that the old global system is being replaced. Our northern neighbor just picked a side, and it's not ours. So Washington would be insane not to notice. Behind the flames in Minnesota, the real story is the fraud. Federal investigators are closing in on billions stolen through fake daycare schemes, SNAP fraud networks, and NGO money laundering operations. $136 million tracked from Ohio into Minnesota, loaded on the planes, shipped overseas. The IRS is auditing the banks. Whistleblowers say Walz and Ellison were warned for years. Glenn Beck said it plainly, they need to set the streets on fire because the evidence is closing in. And President Trump promised a day of reckoning is coming. And then the corporate press had a meltdown when reality crushed their narrative. Vehicle prices are falling. Manufacturing wages are up $1,300, mortgage payments dropping by thousands, home sales hitting a 3-year high, and a reporter actually asked how lower car prices help auto workers. That question tells you everything about the disconnect between the media elite and working Americans. And then Congress got caught again. 3 Democrats exposed with gains up to 250% on stocks they directly influence. Lisa McClain joking that if her husband's trade was insider trading, they would have bought more. The Stop Insider Trading Act is moving, but critics say it's full of loopholes. Nancy Mace says both parties are too busy getting rich to ban it. And on this day in 1883, President Chester Arthur signed the Pendleton Act after the assassination of a president finally forced Washington to end the corrupt spoils system. 143 years later, we're still fighting the same battle. Corruption protected by chaos, insiders enriching themselves, and Americans demanding accountability. Tell a friend about the Raw Feed. Check out the merch shop. Thank you to everyone who sent in Super Chats and Rumble Rants. You guys make this show possible. I'm Gary Franchi, and we will see you on the next Raw Feed.